Okay, so just make sure that I can see your comments as well. Okay, notifications off. Happy Easter, everyone that celebrates Easter. Hi, Naomi. Hi, Jen. Okay, so as we go through this class, I'll be mainly answering questions at the end, just because you can answer questions as we go along, and I'll go back at the end and answer them. Just because, and if it's like something that I can answer really quickly, I'll answer it, but I'm just trying to stay focused on making sure that I give you guys all of the information and that I'm not too distracted. So please feel free to interact, drop any comments, drop anything that's coming up for you. This group is a safe space, so you know, if you feel like you're getting a little bit activated, getting a bit overwhelmed, then just turn it off and ground yourself and breathe into it, and we'll definitely send you the replay, so don't feel like you have to watch the whole thing if you're getting triggered. Yeah, so we'll get started. So like I said, at the end I will answer your questions, but you can ask the questions throughout the class. At the end, if you want to ask some more in-depth ones, I can answer them a bit more thoroughly about the class today, about relationships, and then of course about root cause therapy, about the modality itself, and also about the training, because I know a couple of you have jumped in here that are interested in finding out more about the training itself, the certification training. Yep, so which is awesome. And we have quite a few, I think, root cause therapy practitioners in here too, so they might be able to answer your questions as we're going along as well, as I think I've seen quite a few, so which is amazing. I love it. Yeah, so this class is for anyone that's interested in root cause therapy, or you're looking to improve your relationships, or you're a practitioner and you want to help clients that have relationship issues, or you want to help couples that are having relationship issues, then you're in the right place. So this class's focus is not only how to bring awareness to your own relationships, but also how to assist your clients with resolving their relationship issues. Relationship issues can really be, like, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I really believe they can be one of the toughest things to work through. They affect our life in so many ways, and it can be relationships with our family members, with our friends, with our work colleagues, and of course our partner. This course is a little bit more focused on romantic relationships, but you can take the information and apply it to you know, those other relationships in our lives that are really important as well. And knowing how to identify issues and find solutions in a quite a, I don't want to say fast, I don't like to use the word fast or instant or anything like that, but in a efficient way, it's really essential to preserving our relationships. And not only that, relationships greatly affect our inner life and how we feel about ourselves, and how secure we feel in our lives, and how loved that we feel in our lives, and how we speak to ourselves as well. So we'll go kind of through what that looks like growing up and how it can affect our relationships later in life as well. And yeah, so we'll dive into all that. So we're going to cover a few things today. Like I said, if you have to leave early, that's totally fine. I will post a replay for you guys to watch. Now, if you don't know anything about root cause therapy, then I'll just tell you a little bit about it now, just to give you a frame of reference. I guess if you've not heard of root cause therapy and you're just interested in, you know, assisting relationships. your own or others. So root cause therapy, so this is the official kind of, there's not always an official like set in stone, but this is kind of what we put out there. So root cause therapy is a therapy which is predominantly a trauma healing method that uses regression to allow the completion of unprocessed emotions, which are still presently causing unwanted thoughts, behaviours and symptoms in one's life, with advanced ways of testing and discovering the actual causation of the current presenting symptoms that are not feeling good, so unease within oneself. We find the actual cause, which could be reflecting itself through negative life patterns, thoughts and choices. A qualified practitioner facilitates the client to tap into the self-healing mechanisms of the deeper parts of their mind in an empowering, safe container, while still conscious and awake. Assumptions and theories are no longer necessary as we create a way for the mind and body to consciously access and reassess from a clearer perspective, whether this is in the past or negative projections into the future. Each session with the RCT therapist is structured in a way that they can help prioritize and work through lifelong symptoms and past hurts in a gentle yet thorough way. So one of the main reasons why I created it was because I found that a lot of practitioners weren't taught a set way of how to run sessions, and also going from session to session. A lot of people go to therapy and they kind of feel like that they're going around in circles and they're just repeating traumas that have happened to them, which can actually be re-traumatizing in some ways if the practitioner doesn't know how to help them to come to resolution, or it's just really playing around with surface level stuff rather than working on the deeper stuff. So it's good to have a balance of both. Both have their place, both are really fantastic, but I've kind of spent many years merging them together. So we've got this combination of coaching and therapy and trauma healing in really amazing transformative sessions. So when it comes to relationships, let's come all the way back. We're talking about relationships today. So when it comes to relationships, relationships are basically circumstances where we relate, right? And so the definition of relationships is the way in which two or more people or things are connected, or the state of being connected. The state of being connected by blood or marriage, and an emotional and or sexual association between two people. And then the last one is the way in which two or more people or groups regard and behave towards each other. And I wanted to highlight this one because how we regard the other person and how we regard ourselves in the relationship, and then the behaviors that we have towards each other, are really what make or break relationships. And the reason why it blends so well with root cause therapy is because root cause therapy is all about the behaviors that we have from the symptoms of painful events, traumas, things that have happened in our lives that are still playing out, even though we might not be consciously aware of where they've come from. So we might have these dynamics in relationships where we don't understand why we keep attracting the same people, we don't understand why we behave certain ways in a relationship, we don't understand why we can't hold space for someone else's behaviors in a relationship. So it is really important that we learn where these thoughts and emotions and behaviors are coming from so we can start to shift them. So in root cause therapy, we do believe that behaviors stem from our earliest relationships, where we're understanding how relationships work, where they're getting imprinted, and whether those relationships or moments in that relationships brought safety or not feeling safety. And so when we don't feel safe, then we can start to create limiting beliefs, and we can start to trap our emotions because we don't feel safe to express ourselves fully as we are with our emotions. And we start to create these belief systems that are really the foundation of our, not of ourselves, because the foundation of ourselves are like loving and amazing and unlimited and everything. It's like this work is just about peeling back the layers so people remember who they really are. But it's really about our reactions and our behaviors in a relationship from our childhood imprinting. And not only childhood, it can go back generationally, and not only childhood, it can happen from traumas that happen later in life, in later relationships. We're not about making assumptions that everything is from childhood, although from our experience, a lot of it does come from that, because these are the early years where we're imprinted, where we're learning about what love looks like, how to deal with conflict, how to be loving, and what we witness is usually what's imprinted. A lucky few people, if they were in a stressful kind of upbringing where it was a little bit chaotic, some people go the other way, where their trauma response is to be overly loving and, you know, really give themselves to other people to feel safe. But at the end of the day, it does come down to whether we feel safe or not within a relationship and in ourselves. So that's the work really that we do. How we behave towards each other ultimately affects the quality of the relationship, and the quality of our relationships ultimately affects how happy and safe we feel in our own lives. And that's why relationships are so important, right? So some people like get over it and they're like, I just want to be alone on my own, and they start shutting the world out. And so that is one way to do it, but to live a full life, I really believe deeply connecting with others and being open and having really good relationships is one of the keys to having a great and full life. You'll hear from like really famous people or people that have a lot of money that at the end of the day the relationships were the most important. And we are relational beings, like humans, we're social beings. So when we start to shut down from the world, if we're not open, it's usually we're protecting ourselves. And I don't want you to think that we should be open and loving with everyone, because I'm definitely more of an introvert. I'm quite empathetic, and so I can't be around people for a long time. I have great relationships, but I can't, you know, it's not like a codependency kind of, I have to message them every day and be around them all the time. I really like my alone time, and I still might have stuff to work through around that, definitely. Like when I was, I remember in primary school, like I had no friends, and when I did have friends, I was severely bullied. So for me, I've probably got more layers to work through there for sure. But it's a journey, and just be gentle with yourself. But yeah, so our closest relationships, our family, our partner, our children, they can really affect us the most, because we often love them, and they can cut us really deep, and that's what can create a lot of conflict and hurt and behaviors that we do that we wish that we didn't, because of these strong emotions. And these strong emotions can often be built up over time if we don't know how to process them well, if we weren't taught how to do it, or your clients weren't taught how to do it. And so sometimes we have to go and clean up a bit of a backlog first, and then they can start to learn how to navigate their emotions, hold space for themselves and their loved ones during times of conflict, and really relearn, going back and reparenting ourselves as to, you know, how to have healthy relationships and things like that. So firstly, we want to touch on how to become aware of the negative patterns, so in ourselves and clients, and how to identify the root cause of relationship issues. So negative behavioural patterns can be summarised simplistically into the following 4 categories. Now, I've just made this kind of, what do you call it? I can't remember what it's called, but basically I've got a letter for each thing. So it's basically COPP, so closed, open, push, pull. So I'll just post this for you guys so you can follow along. It's an acronym, that's the word. Thank you, brain. Oh, funny. Okay, so the closed one, thanks Kim, yeah. The closed one is, this represents when we close our hearts, right? When we shut off. So this often happens when we get hurt, We don't know how to, we don't know how to express our emotions or how to feel safe to show or process our emotions even internally. Sometimes we just shut them down because it wasn't good, or for some reason we got in trouble for having them, and we learn over time to have safety to survive that we need to shut these down. But if they don't move through us, emotions are meant to move through us like a wave and be feedback, and they're meant to be our compass. And so it should take about 90 seconds for an emotion to move through us. We get that feedback. Oh, okay, what I'm doing here, I'm feeling guilty about. Oh, that's making me angry. I need to create a boundary. Oh, that's making me sad. There's something, that I need to talk about here. And so when those get trapped in our body, it's not like they just disappear somewhere. They do get stored. They get stored in our cells, just like toxins get stored in our cells when our body has too much toxicity and it gets stored in the fat area of our cells. It's like, and my body's like, I don't know how to process this, just keep it here to keep you safe for now, so you can get on with your life. But it's still there, and too much of that can cause physical issues. And so that's exactly the same with emotions. The body will tuck it away for now so you can get on with your life, but it can easily get triggered, right? And so simultaneously there can be a build up, and that can cause a lot of issues as well. So when we get hurt, we can go into anger, we can go into self-blame, our nervous system can shut down, and we can get depressed. It doesn't know what to do with the energy or pain if it gets too much, right? And so it can be a combination of all of those. This can be this can happen when we witness in our childhood, like seeing our parents disagreeing, trying to resolve issues or not resolve issues, arguments, disagreements. Maybe we saw one of our parents shut down. Maybe we saw sometimes a response in our parents that we were like, whoa, I never want to do that, and then we try and disown that part of ourselves, and it can come out in unconscious ways. It can be because every relationship is going to have conflict, but we saw the conflict and we were scared, our nervous system was scared and made an imprint of, okay, conflict is not safe, it's not good, and so some people avoid any conflict. And definitely drop a comment if anything's coming up for you, or this is, because we're going to all have elements of this. I'm not perfect. Every single one of you that's watching, we're all going to have some of these elements. So don't feel like there's something wrong with you or something wrong with your client. All we're doing is bringing awareness to these possible reactions in our relationships. So so we'll shut off those parts of us because we don't want to be bad like that parent. Again, another learned thing. Again, these are just assumptions. With root cause therapy, with each individual client, it's going to be different, and we go through the process with them to discover what their actual imprinting was that's causing the behavior that might not be serving themselves or their relationship. The next one is open. So when we are open to others, it's because we are open, our heart is open, we're open within ourselves, right? Essentially, our heart is open. So whatever arises in another, even if it's conflict, even if they're emotional, even if they're triggered, then if we have built enough resilience in ourselves and in our own nervous system, then we can hold space for others' grievances, allegations, even if they're throwing things at us because they're in an activated state. We could have triggered something from their past, or we could be triggering something from something that we've done, but because our heart's open, we can be there lovingly and hold space for them. Whereas if you have two people that have shut down, no one's open, it's going to kind of do this, right? Both people are shut off. There's no space for conversing about it, working it out, nutting it out, being vulnerable, right? So it's closed off. But with that open heart, there's spaciousness within ourselves to hold the emotional charge of the other. And they can start to feel safe with us, where they can feel like they can unpack, they can express their emotions, they can be angry, they can have behaviors, but they feel safe to do so and to get it out, and they can have that completion process, but also feel safe in the relationship where they don't think that if they have one emotional day or explosion that you're just going to leave them, right? And so that's the beauty of having an open heart. Now, even for me, I have moments where I can feel my heart shut down and my thoughts are really angry, and I'm like, eh. And I'm not perfect, so there's times where I'm like, oh my gosh, my heart shut off, right? And I'll go through later in this class of like a few little things that you can do to reopen your heart and step into a space of being able to hold emotions for yourself and be loving towards yourself, because how we were spoken to when we were younger is often our inner self-talk, and sometimes we berate ourselves for having emotions. I know for me, mine is feeling sick, something I need to work through. Every time I'm sick, I absolutely berate myself, like, what's wrong with you? You know, you shouldn't be sick, blah, blah, blah. And that probably prolongs my sickness, to be honest. And so that's something that I need to work on. But in relationships, some people do that, where they're like, they just don't know how to hold space for themselves because it wasn't held for them. That wasn't modeled to them, right? Or at least like holding space for our inner children when they're getting triggered as well. You can look at it like that as well, if that helps to separate it a little bit. So, and then also like what we saw, like in terms of how our parents held space for each other. So some people were taught that it's like the other way, like it's beautiful to have your heart open and to hold space for each other, and it's normal for us to have emotions, and I love you anyway, and let's work through this. You just want me to listen, or, you know, is there something I can change, and kind of nut it out, right? So there's going to be, again, it comes back down to the feeling of safety or lack of safety in the relationship. If for some reason something's being triggered and we feel like our survival is at risk, then our nervous system is activated and we can go into shutdown or attack. And so becoming aware of that and going, oh, okay, so right now I feel like attacking them or like running away from them, that's really interesting. And then going inside and going, why have I shut down? What's happening here? And then kind of things we can do day to day. And like I said, if we weren't imprinted on how to console, or we weren't consoled or held space, or when we had big emotions, maybe when we were a toddler, and I have a toddler and they have big emotions, and you know, like sometimes it's challenging, but I have to remember, however I'm holding space for him now, that's how he's going to do it for himself when he's older. So I have to be really conscious of that, of I'm teaching him how to self-soothe by how I'm soothing him. And so if we didn't get that, then, you know, it can be too much, and we can do things that are outside of our values. We can do things that are outside of our integrity, either to overly try and save the other person and forget about ourselves, like give too much to try and console someone. Well, that's an effort to really try and console ourselves, but we place all of that on the other person, or we overly, you know, shut off and try and forget about them, and, you know, it's all unbalanced in that sense. So you want to be open, but not like overly open that you forget about yourself, right? Okay, the next one is P for push. So this can be defined as being pushy with your partner. And so pushy it can come from control issues. And control issues are always rooted in fear. It's like fear of not being in control. So for example, you need to do this, you need to do that, why aren't you doing that? You told me you would do that, we need, you know, I need to do everything, you know, I need to control every little thing that's happening in our lives. And we're generally trying to, instead of just being responsible for our own lives and our own integrity and how we're being in the world, it's like we want to control everything outside of ourselves, right? And like I said, it's all rooted in fear of not being in control, because if we're not in control, then our safety is threatened, right? So control issues can show up in other areas of life. So it can be, you know, in work or in our children, you know, it's just not just one area, but in particular in relationships, it's important because no one wants to be controlled, like, really. And I would say it's an important pattern to break. So one of the root causes of this might be, this is something that we saw in terms of one of our parents and the dynamics growing up. We're like, oh, that's how you be a wife, or that's how you be a partner, or that's how you be a parent, and that embeds into us, right? And then, so it's like this coding, okay, this is how you have a romantic relationship. And so we can play that out, and then when the other person goes, you know, I'm sick of this, stop doing this, you're like, but this is how you show love and have a relationship. And it is coming from an innocent place, but we need to recognize this, and people need to kind of become aware of it, and then own it, and then be open to working on it. You can't just say, I am the way I am because of this growing up or because of this trauma, and this is just the way I am, so take it or leave it. That kind of mindset is not a growth mindset where you're like willing to go, oh, I am like this because of that. Okay, I'm becoming aware of that. That's something that I can work on and start to let go of, so we can start to have a healthy relationship because I honor and love our relationship, and I'm willing to do my part, and I don't want to control you anymore and try to make you continue to change and be like, no, you need to change, then I'll stop being controlling. Then you're still being controlling, right? So it always comes back to you. It's you versus you. So you've got to take that responsibility and say, what can I shift, or why am I scared, and why am I trying to be in control, and then start to shift your dynamic rather than trying to make the world and the universe work around you in your favor without you doing anything, right? That's almost leaning towards a victim mentality, like, where I'm the victim of everything that's happening outside of me, that everything that's happened to me, and whatever other people do, it's always their fault. Then you're not going to actually ever grow, and you're just going to kind of like smash all the people around you, and they'll just end up closing their hearts, right? So we don't want that. So that's a really hard one, because definitely for me, I have had traits of this, because that's what I saw growing up with a step parent, and so from a very young age, and so that's something that I've had to peel back and own over time. And it's the hardest thing to own, when you have to say that you're a little bit like someone that was abusive towards you, especially a family member. That's a very, very hard thing to confront, and I totally understand that. But that can often be where it comes from, where we become a narcissist because we were brought up by a narcissist, and to feel safe with a narcissist, we obviously gave ourselves and tried to, but unconsciously might start to take on their traits. So unconsciously, it's like, if I'm like you a little bit, then maybe you'll like me more, and I'll be safer, and I won't be, you know, in the firing line as much. Again, these are all unconscious patterns that are playing out. So the next one is pull, so another P. So pull is, when I think of pull, I think of a planet with a strong magnetic field, and you're wanting to pull in everyone and everything around you. So it is closely linked to the pushy one, but it's more like everything needs to gravitate around me and appease me. And it is more so on the narcissist scale, I guess. And it's like, say, when someone says, the world doesn't revolve around you, well, some people think that it does. And I was having a conversation with someone about it, one of our friends, because we've both got toddlers, and I'm like, toddlers are like little narcissists. Like, they don't care about you, or that you haven't eaten, or anything like that, and it's all about them. And as soon as they say something, you need to appease them, otherwise they will scream and everything, because they are literally like in the world. There's no such separateness. They're like, this is what I want now, and they expect it to be done now. And there's definitely narcissistic traits in that. And I made the link, and I'm like, perhaps narcissists, they never grew up from being toddlers, you know, and they still expect everyone and everything to appease them, and they're not willing. Not that toddlers aren't willing, they just like actually developmentally can't yet, but they can't have like self-ownership and things like that. So yeah, it's really interesting, but the scale of narcissism is also, the victim of narcissism is also on that scale, right? So usually they attract each other for the reason that it's a similar vibration. That is hard for people to hear as well, and I want to say that I've been a victim of narcissism and I've been a narcissist, I think. So I feel like on either end of the scale you can be very expecting that the other person fulfills all of our desires and that they heal us and they say sorry to us, and we're like kind of at the whim of them, and we let go of our self-identity and try and like merge with them, and we put them on a pedestal, right? And so that victim mentality comes through on both ends, and our internal emotions are really based on that other person's actions or inactions, rather than having our own lives, and that relationship being like an overlap of our lives, rather than it takes over our whole life and we change our whole being to feel safe with that person. So yeah, it's something that we can really think about. I mean, they're just labels at the end of the day for different symptoms, often from developmental trauma. So when in conflict in a relationship, it's natural to want to protect ourselves, but this pull motion is more like a fawn response, like where we want them to come even closer and console us, where we expect that as soon as we get upset that everyone should be around us and helping us and at our whim, right? So you want to pull everyone in, and so no matter the issue, even if we should be taking self-responsibility. So you could say like an immature person, it's an immature response, but it's literally probably someone that's had trauma when they've been immature, and it's still getting triggered and playing out, and they act as a reactive toddler or whatever, right? So you'll get an idea of, you can, like, when you look at people, you can, and they're having a certain behavior, you see past the person that they are now, and think to yourself and ask yourself, what age are they expressing? That's usually the trauma that's being triggered at that age. So the area that we are in, there's a lot of like kind of homeless people and addicts and stuff walking around, and I look at them and I'm like, oh, what happened to you? Like, you poor thing. I know that they are just doing their best to cope and to feel okay. And so, yeah, I think it's really important that we see people like in a trauma, like through a trauma-informed lens in that sense, rather than just judging the behaviour that they have now. And yeah, Susan, they have that dynamic, definitely. This can, so on the flip side, someone could have been overly like helicopter parented, so and they didn't give their child any autonomy, which means they didn't give their child a chance to express who they are or try things on their own or experience a little bit of conflict, right? Do these little things, and then we can be there for them. It's not to say like put your child in dangerous situations, but if you let them live a little bit and then you're there for them, they've got that secure attachment, they can come to you and say this happened, and you can be their guide. And that's what we should be as parents, as guides. And if we didn't get that growing up, then we won't have that emotional maturity. We won't know how to work out that conflict or be autonomous, have our own lives. And so what that can cause is the parent is dependent on how the child's feeling, the child's dependent on how the parent's feeling. What that can do is when someone is and grown up, or in their family or whatever situation, there's what's called enmeshment, where one person, that pull person, reacts with issues that are happening and they have an emotion, then everyone needs to experience what they're experiencing, right? It's like everyone needs to feel how I'm feeling, and they'll either just be this unconscious agreement that, if that person's having a depressed day, everyone needs to be depressed. If one person's depressed, and the other one walks in all happy, they all hate that person. Like, how could you be happy? This person's sad. That's enmeshment. I know with my partner, if one of us are down and the other one's up, that's good, that's fine, because one has to be up to take care of the house and the other things. And the depressed person, it's okay to be depressed. You need some space to work through whatever you're working through, and that's okay. And we can hold space for each other in that sense. There's no enmeshment, right? So it's not coming from a place of, oh my God, I'm happy and you're depressed, like, ha ha ha. It's not coming from that space. It's like, I'm happy today and that's okay, and you're sad today and that's okay. Where can I pick up the pieces, and what kind of space do you need? And that kind of mutual respect, right? And so when you get into a relationship and one person's really anxious, so the other person has to be anxious, so there's all this enmeshment, it's messy. We don't have that autonomy. We don't have our own lives. Emily, how do you direct your kids properly then? That would be like a whole other course that has been going through my brain. I'm so interested in it. The book that I'm reading at the moment, which is really cool, is called The Awakened Family by Dr. Shafali. Definitely have a listen to that. It's incredible. And until we have some kind of course on it, definitely go there. There's Conscious Parenting or Awakened Family. I prefer Awakened Family. Okay, so again, I'm not saying that one person is like this and the other one is like that and you just slot into the categories. It could be little elements of each one. Some people might really be upholding one of those that are coming to your mind, or your clients or whatever, or yourself. So, but the more that we become aware of this, the more that we can shift with awareness, right, the better our relationships will become, and the happier our lives and communities will be, and there'll really be that ripple effect. Every single one of these that I've mentioned, when we do them to our partner in response to conflict or disagreements, we're actually doing it to ourselves, right? Our relationship with ourselves reflects our relationship with others, and then our relationships with others, again, is a reflection of what's going on inside here. And so this is how you take radical responsibility. And one of the best quotes that I've heard about this is, it's you versus you. So many of us are doing the push, acronym, where we're trying to control the other to make us feel better, where we're trying to change the other person to make us feel safer. Whereas the way that I've found that works amazingly well after being through many toxic relationships and now being in a healthy one is that it's always me versus me. It's always something that, okay, I'm seeing this trait in the other person. I'm not going to change outside of my values or my self-love or self-respect, but what is it here that I'm allowing into my reality? Are there some standards? I mean, I can tell them my boundaries and tell them my standards, or tell them what I need, and if that person keeps coming back and doesn't give me what I need, or doesn't open their heart or give me space to express myself, whereas am I not doing that? Is it something that I'm not doing? It's just like, pick your washing up off the floor. I'm always doing it. But sometimes we don't see that our partner is actually doing the gardening, and we never touch the garden. We don't see the secret things that we do to love each other. And I'm going to go into that in a minute, of what that can look like for different people, because I don't know, many of you have heard of love languages, and that can really impact that. But really bringing it back to, how can I take responsibility? How can I maybe heal something that I'm seeing in them which I don't like, and using our partner as a mirror, because our relationships are there to help us grow. Okay, and so when we start and not all relationships are meant to be. I'm not saying that you should put up with shit relationships, people that don't match us, people that we've been without a trauma bond, and you start healing and then you realize they were a trauma bond, so it's like, I have to let you go because I ignored all the red flags, right? So I'm not saying that we have to endure anything that we shouldn't be, and that we just have to keep healing ourselves and hope the relationship will just get better in that sense. But it's, if you're someone, or your client is someone that doesn't take any responsibility, then having that that idea in their mind of it's you versus you, it can really, really help with that self-responsibility and the healing journey in itself. So for example, when a client shuts down from someone and they're in a relationship with, they might find that they shut down maybe not with their partner, but they might shut down from their family, they might shut down from, friends, and they're just not owning that part within themselves, and they start to dismiss their own inner voice and place all the blame on the other person. So if two people are just blaming each other for the relationship issues, can you see it working out? Basically, is what I'm saying. No. So how do we go about shifting relationships into a more positive state? Okay, so sometimes, so I'm just going to have a little drink, a little talking. Sometimes when we get into these negative states in our relationship, whether it's shut down or whether there's, disagreement or conflict, which will happen, and if there is none of that in your relationship, and I've met people like this, where there's no disagreements, like for years and years and years, I can tell you for sure that they're not deeply connected, and it's just surface level. Because if people aren't willing to be vulnerable, and as Brene Brown says, to do the vulnerable rumble, then there's going to be a lot of underlying stuff that's not being said, and they're not going to connect deeply on those deeper levels. So I don't want you to get the perspective from this class that I'm just going on about when there's conflict. I mean, when two lives come together, there is going to be some kind of conversations that need to happen about deeper stuff, for sure, or disagreements about where money's going or whatever, right? Or parenting, or I just wanted to just put that little caveat there. It's not all about how do we handle when we're in conflict. It's also about, are we actually doing conflict as well? So sometimes when we're emotionally charged, when we get triggered, when we're in an argument, when we get hurt, when we disagree, then when those emotions get triggered, it hits something within us, right? And we don't always consciously know where it's come from, but all of a sudden we get overwhelmed with these emotions, and then the emotions blow up thoughts in our mind. Put an emoji down if you've been there. When thoughts blow up in our mind, then what can happen is, look, there's some people that are different stages on the journey. Some people are like, my thoughts are me, and they're truth, and I have to follow every single one. Whereas there's other people on the journey that are like, my thoughts aren't me, and I'm just a witness to my thoughts, and I don't need to act on them, right? But when emotions drive behavior, so you have to be very conscientious when thoughts come up and you're emotionally activated, to go, okay, I'm having a very strong emotion, I'm having these thoughts, I really want to take action on this, whether it's sending a mean text, whether it's yelling back at them, whether it's, you're walking off on them, you're slamming the door. Our emotions have taken over in that moment, and it's natural to have that. Some of us might dig it down really deep, but we disconnect from them, you know what I mean? So there's different ways. But I'll go into a few little tools of what you can do when those things come up. And this is outside of therapy, okay? These are things you can do on your own. In therapy, we're not usually in conflict when we're in therapy. So there's a different thing that we're doing. It's a therapeutic model. But this is what you can do when you're out in the world in your relationship, right? And stuff like this is coming up. How can we shift into a more positive kind of way? And so, number one, notice when conflict comes up. That's just be aware that there's a conflict happening and you're getting a charge, and check from the COP acronym, if I can say that properly, which one is showing up the most predominantly. Because when you get an indication of that, you pretty much need to do the opposite of that. So when close comes up, you go, okay, something's happened, I'm triggered, I'm really emotional. What of the COP acronym am I doing here? Is it closed? yes, I've closed off, I've walked off from them, I've slammed the door, I've shut down from them. Okay, what's the opposite of that? Open, right? How can I go into myself and open my heart? It's going to be very uncomfortable, but I know this isn't the right space for us to resolve this. And the more time that goes on that you've closed off, the more the other person feels abandoned, alone, things like that. So yeah, notice what's coming up, do the opposite. Then when you do the opposite, you've kind of opened that bag of worms where you're like, can of worms or bag of worms? You can ask yourself and go, and this isn't a lot of resolving conflict with another is actually resolving it in ourselves first. This is why there's a little bit of work to do on your own here. And sometimes we need to say, I'm feeling really triggered now about what you said, or I need some time to think about this. And that is a whole nother level of something you need to agree on in your relationship, that sometimes you do need a little bit of space for yourself. It's not shutting down. It's just, you don't want to hurt them. You don't want to get angry at them. You don't want to say something that you don't mean. I need 5 minutes. Sometimes you have to react in the moment as well. So you've got to do this internally really quickly and just give yourself a moment and a few breaths. So go into yourself, into the emotion, and go, what could be the root cause of this? Is this because I'm reacting to what's happening now? Is it because of past stuff or build up? Is it something that I've witnessed growing up? Is it something that I've learned from a past relationship? A lot of us often go through, especially, you know, in our early 20s, and I'm not speaking for everyone, right? But some of us go through relationships that aren't great. And we take that baggage into our relationships later in life. And so, you know, when we are now in a safe relationship, we get the triggers from the old relationship, that baggage, and brought it into the new one. So being aware of that is awesome, because then you don't take it out on your current partner, stuff that happened in the past relationship. Okay, number 3 is, what do I need to do? So do you need like a bit more self-love? Do you need to take a breather? You need to do the opposite thing? Do you need to like hold space for them? Do you, whatever, like what should I breathe through it? You know, can you regulate your nervous system? For me, I like to do the kind of holotropic breathing. I like to and just breathe through that contraction in my body. And then some people like to just go outside for a minute. It's just whatever you can do to regulate, so you can be the safe space for yourself and that other person, is always going to be beneficial. And then this is something that, it was the most incredible thing, and kind of why I wanted to teach this class, where we and it's not often where I get really like triggered and upset, but Ryan and I had a big fight. It would have been a few weeks ago. And I was like, and because we were both juggling Tommy and work, we didn't have a chance to actually go through the conflict together and nut it out like we usually would. And so I walked off, and I'm like in a huff and a puff, and I'm walking down the road with the pram, and I'm like, "Urgh." In my head's like, "Brr," like saying all this terrible stuff. And then that like just kept happening, and I felt really hurt and all this pain in my heart. I'm like, this is interesting, and I'm like trying to breathe through it, figure it out. Anyway, on the way back, I'm like, okay, I'm going to see him soon. What version of me is going to be in a long-term healthy relationship? Because the version that I'm being right now, that is not what's on the cards of what I'm going to say or what I think or what I want to do. Okay, so this isn't me. This is my triggered behavior that's expressing itself. So I was like, what is the version of me, the older version of me that, and this is pulling on the trauma-informed manifesting course, but what is the older version of me that is in a healthy long-term relationship, right? That it did last, and we were happy and respectful and loving. And so I literally closed my eyes, and I did this while I was walking, and I just called that version of me in, and I just got the word grace drop in, and I just felt into that older version of me, and literally went like, that's all I can explain it. It was just like through my whole body. My entire demeanor changed, and I don't feel like I suppressed it. I feel like it just, the wave came out of me, and I just felt fine, and I felt like I need to go talk to him and tell him that I'm sorry for my part, and explain to him why I felt the way that I felt in a very, also the grace is what dropped in like a graceful way, because that's what the mature version of me would do. And so, yeah, it was literally mind-blowing, because I walked in and he looked at me like he was scared. And I was like, babe, I'm fine. And I'm like, can we talk about it now? And he's like, yes, please. And we just had this beautiful, and I feel like crying now because it was so beautiful. We just had this beautiful open heart conversation, and we got past it, and we resolved what we had to resolve, and we got to explain our story from each side without these really strong emotions. And it was just amazing. And it was just absolutely beautiful. So, okay, it did make me emotional, but in a good way. Okay, so then you want to look at if the behaviours are a pattern and they keep on repeating, is there like conflicts that happen over and over again in a relationship? Are there patterns? Actually, from what I've seen from having thousands of clients, etc., it's like our life is literally bunches of patterns. And so our relationships are bunches of patterns as well. You know, every Friday, what do you want to eat for dinner tonight, honey? Like, you know, that like our relationship and how we feel comfortable and safe, and we have these like patterns that we do. And so are there any negative patterns that are repeating? Are these conflicts that keep coming up over and over again, that I've done all the tools like Mel said, it's not working? Then you would want to see a root cause therapist. Then you'd want to work on it a little bit deeper in each of you individually, and sometimes coming together. And I'll go into that a bit later, how that would look. If any of you are root cause therapists and watching or wanting to be one, how that would look in terms of running couple sessions and doing this work. So I'll just post, if any of you are watching and you actually are like, oh, I'd like to actually book a session with someone, I'm just going to post the link of our directory, and you can have a look there and choose someone. Okay, so if you are a practitioner or want to be a practitioner, then with root cause therapy, we do teach you how to help people release the root cause of whatever presenting issue is. And, oh, is the video okay? Is it just stopped for Yvonne, or can anyone else? Am I okay for everyone else? I hope so. Okay, so we want to find the all good. Okay, cool. So we just want to find the causation of the presenting patterns, issues, overwhelming emotions, behaviors, right? And so if you want to do that on a deeper level, you can do it individually with people or as couples. If you want to work with couples, then you can use the following assessments. So you can send these assessments to them before the session. You can do it with them, like these quizzes. There's like a lot available online. And then you want to help, when you have a couple session, when you have couples, what you're doing essentially is helping them translate to each other. You're that third person, and you're helping them kind of nut out in a safe space with you, whereas normally one person's saying one thing, they're not getting it. We all have different realities that we're experiencing, and we all have different belief systems. And so when someone else says something and it doesn't align with our belief systems, then that can cause inner conflict, and then it can cause conflict in the relationship. Okay, and then with the other side, it could be someone saying something, but they're in a shutdown state, they're in a reactive state, right? They're in fight and flight. So when we're in fight and flight, our executive functioning, our prefrontal cortex is shut down. And so we can't actually listen, right? We go into defensive mode or angry mode. And so working with people as a couple is about creating that safe space for them to be able to nut it out, and having someone to translate when the information isn't coming through on either end for whatever reason. And so you can, like I said, you can send this to people before a session, or you can do it with them in there, or it can be homework in between sessions. But my favorite ones are the 5 love languages. So the 5 love languages helped me so much in relationships, where it just made so much sense as to why my relationship wasn't working. So I'll explain it to you. So there's 5 love languages. So there's words of affirmations, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. Our acts of service that we like to receive. So I like to receive love when, I feel loved when someone does something for me. And this can be like from what we experienced growing up, but it can also be from no one ever did anything for me growing up. So I really appreciate when people do stuff for me, because it makes me feel loved, because it fulfills a void that I didn't have when I was growing up. So it could be that as well. But if I like to receive acts of service, if my partner brings me a coffee, I'm like, oh my God, I love you so much. I mean, I don't drink coffee, but okay, hot chocolate. Or then what can happen is, if we're not aware of the 5 love languages, then we will often do our acts of service to the other person, thinking that that's how they're going to feel loved. Yes, the love languages, Kayla. So doing what they feel, and so then if that's not their love language, then they're not going to feel loved, they're not going to appreciate you. You're going to keep doing it and be like, why are they not appreciating this? Why are they not giving me recognition for this? Why are they not, so like I feel so taken for granted. It's because maybe their love language is words of affirmation. So you're doing stuff for them, but if you say to them, babe, you look great today, they're just like, oh my God, thank you. I feel so loved, right? And so when each couple does this, and pretty much the second day that Ryan and I started dating, we completed this quiz, emailed it to each other, and said, this is my manual on how I like to feel loved. This is how, and that's literally what we did. And then it was uncomfortable at first, because if say my one is acts of service, then doing acts of service is like, I've been doing it for years and it's fine. But if his is words of affirmation, then I've got to be like, make an effort every day to give him words of affirmation. And so I'll get into that, Annette. And so with words of affirmation, it's like I have to like make that effort. And so, but over time it became normal to me, to the point now where like that is not his love language anymore, because I've given him so much words of affirmation, that now his has changed to acts of service. And I noticed that because when I made his bed the other day, or the other week, he was like, oh my God, babe, thank you so much for making my bed. Thank you, I really appreciate it. I'm like, your love language has changed. So I must have really fulfilled that for him. And then mine seems to have changed as like acts of service. I'm like, yeah, people do stuff for me, like that's normal now. And now I'm like, babe, can you tell me that I look pretty? Do I look good? I'm like, oh, mine has changed too. So it's like that has been, that one's been fulfilled, and now it's shifted. And we can have like in order, like different percentages. So we can have our first love language and the second love language. Emily, you can just Google 5 love languages quiz. You can do one for single people, in relationships, and for your children on their website. Okay, so the next one is attachment styles. So attachment styles are how a response, how our biology adapted to how we were nurtured from when we're in the womb and born and in the early years. So, oh, thanks, Amy. And so it could be, there's different ones. So there's secure attachment. So that's the ideal one, where people feel, well, like with their parents, they felt secure because they could go to the parent's there for them, the parent didn't tell them to go away. They felt like they could go and venture out into the world and come back, and their parent will still be there and loving them. That's secure attachment. And there's anxious avoidant. So it's like that parent was unsafe and I have anxiety around them and I avoid them, right? There's anxious, fearful. So it's like I'm literally anxious and scared to even connect with them. I think I wrote anxious avoidant twice, sorry. But anyway, so it's all linked to how you would nurture with your caregiver. And what happens is that directly reflects onto how we are in a relationship, because that's how we were first taught how to love. And so if you can see that, if you can see, okay, how was I, and a lot of us have done a lot of work and we've overcome it. I was definitely anxious avoidant and now I'm secure. That took so many years of work. For some people, not even aware of it, and for a lot of your clients, they might not even be aware of it, where you can, and I think there are quizzes they can do online for that as well to discover their attachment style. And so once they become aware of that and go, oh my gosh, I'm anxious avoidant, that's why I close off, that's why I shut down, I'm nervous and I close off because I had to do that growing up, and now I do it in my relationship. And it's not only just your romantic relationships, can happen, it can reflect on your relationship with your kids, it can happen on the relationship with your boss, with your workmates. If you're a business, it can happen with your how you are with potential clients and your clients. It can affect that as well. So having this information can give you so much awareness about different behaviors that you're doing in your relationships, and it enables you to start to shift them, and they can shift. As you do, say, things like root cause therapy, you can go back to your inner child and give them the love or the attachment that they needed to feel safe and secure, and then that will then change and reflect in the new relationship. So awareness around that is amazing, and thanks, Amy. And then awareness around, actually, you know, my partner is this attachment style, so I need to hold space for them when they're like that. In knowing that they're still working on it, I'm not going to just say I'm going to allow you to react this way forever, because that's what happened to you in childhood. Like, you hope that they're both working on their personal development, but just having that awareness of, okay, my partner is anxious avoidant, that's why they shut down. Can I in some way hold space for them so they can start to lean towards a more secure relationship? And it might come to the point of which where we're like, oh my gosh, I'm with this person because they're just like one of my parents, and I'm just reliving this trauma, and they're not the right person for me because I'm just recreating trauma in an effort to heal it unconsciously, and that's why I ignored all the red flags. And so sometimes it is that we actually, you know, some people aren't meant to be together because it's just a trauma bond, right? And so you do want to be with someone that is willing to grow in the relationship with you and be respectful and you know, leaning towards being more loving and learning your love language and putting the effort in. I mean, some relationships are too far gone where like that could still potentially happen, but there's so much underlying stuff and that was so suppressed for so long that it's like beyond repair, and us as therapists have to recognize it as well and do the best that we can, but know that we're not just going to heal people's relationships if they're not meant to be, right? Sometimes we have to help them with conscious uncoupling, right? So it's like, oh, we're consciously uncoupling, we're divorcing in a conscious way, but I don't want to move on with my life with all of this unsaid issues, this, all this stuff that we've shoved under the carpet, and I don't want to take the baggage into my life or a new relationship. How can we nut that out and leave in a really amicable, respectful way? So you can definitely do that. And of course the COP acronym reactions, which all link together with the attachment styles, really. So yeah, again, it's not just like doing the quizzes and going, okay, this is the way I am and you have to just deal with it. Okay, with the love languages, it's a little bit different because, I mean, it's beautiful. If you know that your partner feels loved if you buy them gifts, that is such good information because you have the instructions on how to make them feel loved, and that's beautiful, isn't it? So it's a bit different with that, but what I'm talking about is like the, other issues that are going on. We're in a relationship to grow, and it's our relational trauma from childhood that's going to nut out in our relationships when we're older. Some people might be in abusive or controlling relationships in the past, so their nervous system is often activated even with the smallest trigger, even if this new person is safe. So again, trauma healing is going to be amazing for people like that. And also with the other people recognizing that that's why they are being that way, rather than actually like that there's something wrong with that person. There's never anything wrong with anyone. We're all just coping in different ways. So with all of these, if we're willing to be vulnerable and open, we can work through them, either at the time of the conflict or very short after. You'll hear people that have been, married for 50, 60 years, and they'll say, what's the secret? And it's like, never go to bed angry, and like things like that, or always compromise. And they are really the secret keys to having a long-term, healthy, loving, mutually respectful relationship. I mean, firstly, we have to respect ourselves and honour ourselves and our boundaries and work through that. But yeah, if we can resolve things as quickly as possible and not shove things under the carpet, then there's not going to be a build-up to work through, and it's not going to get to the point where it's too much. Okay, and so, I mean, there's so many things that attach to those build-up of emotions. There's stories, there's resentments. I've got another example when I think Ryan and I had just come back from Thailand, and we hadn't been on a date for like 2 years, like since our son was born. And there was this really nice restaurant in Lakes Entrance that I wanted to go to, this seafood restaurant, and I'm like, babe, can we like book to go there? Your mum can look after Tommy, like we can go on a date, it'll be really nice. He's like, yeah. And he didn't book it, and weeks went past and he didn't book it. And in my head, I started having this story about he doesn't care about me because he's not booking it, he doesn't care about me because he's not booking it, when is he booking it? Like, and I had this big story about it. And as soon as I caught that story and that resentment that I had, and the that secret undercurrent that was happening in the relationship, I was like, oh, that's just a story. Like, it doesn't mean that he doesn't care about me. Maybe he like, it's not a priority for him in terms of like he's happy to go out with me for dinner whenever, and he's not like excited to go to that restaurant because he's not into seafood as much as I am. I mean, it could be so many things, but I was like, this is a story that's making me feel uncomfortable and like shit, and it could be affecting our relationship. And as soon as I shifted that and realized that, I swear an hour later he had booked it. This stuff's magical, guys. Just, resolving it in you, it just shifts your reality. I was like, I was shocked. I was like, oh my God. And I was like, babe, I literally just let go of that an hour ago and you booked it. He's like, I don't know. Like, so yeah, incredible. But yeah, when we have these secret undercurrents in the relationship that we don't talk about when we're not watching Netflix, we don't talk about when we're going out for dinner, but there's all these like unsaid things, and then this undercurrent builds up, and it can go pull us away from each other. And yeah, if it doesn't resolve, then there's more and more build up. It affects ourselves, it affects our own mind, right? And because of this build up, and because it makes us have the unease, because of the build up, and if we can't handle it, what happens is we will often reject the other person and not want to be with them anymore. And it's not because we don't love them, or we might have got to the point where we feel like we don't. It's because we can't sit with our own uncomfortable emotions about it, because we haven't let them out, we haven't processed them. So we reject the other person because they're making us feel a certain way, but it's really, we're not holding space for ourselves. And so we think, if I move something in my outer reality, if I move him away, then I'm going to stop feeling like this, right? And then that's when we start like going from one relationship to the other, and blah, blah, blah. It all comes back to, how do we feel in ourselves? And I am definitely not saying you should stay in a relationship that is abusive, anything like that. Definitely get out of that. I'm not saying to endure anything in terms of if they're very disrespectful, that your life is in danger. I'm definitely not saying that. But usually these little things, a lot of it is just they're triggering something in us, we feel uncomfortable, and we're not willing to meet that, so we're pushing them away because we want to push our emotion away. So when we come back to what I said earlier, it's you versus you. So what happened to you when you were a dependent is not your fault. I'm not saying that the trauma that happened to you is your fault at all. But as an adult, it's up to you to start to become more self-aware, to start to reparent yourself, to start to be self-leading and take that radical responsibility for the patterns, for your healing, and continue to become, or peel back the armor that you've put around yourself to protect yourself, to start to peel that back really gently, so you can start to be more open, you can start to have more healthy boundaries, because boundaries are still loving. Like, I'm not going to put up with that behavior that's outside of me. Like, that would be not loving myself if I accepted that. And that sometimes is the most self-loving thing for you and the other person, for them to start to become aware of their behavior, right? So, and integrity, of course, the more that you do this, the more that you're going to have better integrity. I know over my healing journey, my integrity is so squeaky clean and getting more and more so, just because I'm so self-aware that I just couldn't sleep at night if I did anything that was a little bit dodgy. I just couldn't. So everything that I do, I'm checking in with my integrity, because I care about myself and how I feel. And that in turn obviously will positively impact, our students, our clients, people around us, our family, our friends, and then that positively impacts community and things like that. So your relationships highly impact your relationship with yourself, and your relationship with yourself determines who and what you allow to be close to you and how you are treated, right? So with the RCT framework, we use, and I hope you guys can see this, I didn't have time to print it out, so some of you will recognize this. So we use, and I'll just make sure you guys can see this a little bit, and I'll be reading this out, so you don't need to see it fully, but this is just what the page looks like. This is what we use to guide our sessions with clients. So firstly, what we do is, this is what it looks like in sessions, and I am going to go through how to run couple sessions. I did consult one of my friends, old employees / students, whatever you want to call her, because she runs couple sessions. So there is a framework for running couple sessions, but I'm just going to go through with you, okay, what does it look like in terms of a root cause therapy session? So firstly, we go through what is the intentional focus for the session. They want to resolve their relationship, they want to get over heartbreak, they want to have a better relationship with their mum, they want to have better relationship with their partner, they want to forgive their partner for something, whatever it happens to be. We're getting their intention, and intention is really important. And so if you are doing a couple session, you do want to get them on the same page of what is the intention for the couples. And you can just write that on a note somewhere. It's like the intention of both of them. Are they on the same page? They want to have better communication. They want to be more open with each other. They want to get past something that happened in the past, blah, blah, blah. Or individually, be their individual intention. So you can help someone with their relationship individually, or you can have them come in as a couple. So, for some people it might be, I want to stop getting into toxic relationships. I just want to improve my current relationship, blah, blah, blah. So then we go through and we check through the past experiences. Again, because I've set the intention or the container for the session of it's about relationships, other stuff will come up, because everything affects everything in our life. So different areas are like cogs, and they will affect it. So we just honor what comes up for the client, but we do have that energetic intention of, I do want to have these sessions, improve something in my relationships. So when we check on past things, we are checking with the conscious and the subconscious. So for the client, it might just be things that pop into their mind when we ask them certain questions. So I can do that with you guys now. And of course, if you feel a little bit triggered, need to contact whoever you see for mental health, do that. But for example, we might say hurt. So I'll say to the client, if I say hurt, who or what comes up for you? They might have the current partner come up, they might have a parent come up. Whatever comes up for that client, whatever pops into their mind, that first name or event, that's what we write down. That's something that we can monitor over time, because that's the baggage that they're holding on to that's getting triggered, and might be some of the causation of the behaviours and thoughts and patterns in their current relationships. So and of course we're going to, before this, we go through their history, and we go through their upbringing and what their relationship was like with their parents, what their parents' relationship was like, and those dynamics. we do get all the background on that as well, but I'm just talking about in the session. Then we get feedback on all areas of their lives. So we've got, how they're feeling at the moment. So it might be like, what is conflict, how much conflict would you say you have in your life out of 10? And I always say that inner conflict usually reflects as outer conflict and vice versa. And so we're getting these numbers as data, because then from session to session we can see what's shifting, what's changing, where they're at right now, what the different cogs in the wheels are doing. So if you have a look and you say, well, I'm feeling like my mental clarity is a 2 out of 10, my physical health is a 2 out of 10, my relationship is a 5 out of 10, and my financial abundance is a 2 out of 10, we might be like, okay, is stuff that's going on financially, making you not look after yourself, and could that be a part of like the issue with the relationship? We can kind of start connecting dots there. Then on the bottom of the sheet, we kind of look at what are the thoughts, usages, or behaviours. Are there any coping mechanisms? Are there any behaviours? Yes, I tend to have outbursts, and yell at my kids or my partner. I don't want to do that anymore. And then we get some data on that. Okay, how often is that happening? How strongly is it happening out of 10, right? So again, we can monitor that. And then we look at, the reason why we do this, so I'll just backtrack a little bit, is we always want to get the client's perspective on how they're feeling. We don't want to project our own beliefs onto the client in terms of, if they say their health is an 8 out of 10, but they eat like chocolate and have, soda pop, whatever, every day, we don't want to project onto them that's unhealthy if they feel healthy. Like, you just want to honour their perspective of how they're feeling, and then you're getting the data of how they're feeling from session to session. You're really honouring their reality, and that's really important, because I think with some therapies there's like judgments and assumptions, and we dismiss how the client's feeling, and we try to tell them how they're feeling and put them in a little box and give them a label. And I think that can stop people from being empowered and wanting to actually heal and grow. And then you can, with the usage, thoughts and behaviours, you can look at what are repetitive thoughts that you have. Oh, I always feel like I want to leave my partner, even though mostly I don't. I just have these weird thoughts that come up. We can write things like that down. We can work on them, monitor them, make sure that we're aware of them, something to work through. And so then we'll look at, again, if someone comes to you with any issue, you can use this testing sheet. So again, it's just very individual, but again, it's set by the intention and what they're seeing you for. The next part is future. So depending, do level 1 and level 2 RCT. Future could be, how would they like their future to look like, rather than what it looks like now, and what little shifts can happen. But the other thing with future is a lot of people create sabotage in their relationships because they have negative goals in their future. Our brain is like a computer, and so when you put certain programs in there and instructions, it will shift your perspective, your reality, what you see, how you feel, to be in line with that goal. And that can be negative or positive goals. And for some people, it's unconscious. So I actually wrote about one of my clients in my book, The Natural High, so I can copy that for you guys if anyone is interested in getting a copy. But in that book, I explain how one of my clients came in and he wanted to resolve his relationship, he really did, but for some reason he kept sabotaging it. And so when we did some of the future work, he discovered, and it wasn't conscious to him, but it was subconscious, or it was unconscious because it wasn't conscious to him, that he had a goal in the future of the relationship falling apart. There was a whole scene playing out of him not being with the family anymore. And he's like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense as to why I'm sabotaging, even though I don't want to, because I'm picturing this worst case scenario in the future. And we were able to resolve that, and they're still, and this was years and years ago, and their relationship is still amazing now, and he stopped sabotaging it because of that goal was shifted from unconsciously negative into positive. And because our unconscious mind, our body, doesn't know the difference between something happening to us now or something that we're imagining, it can have a nervous system response and behaviors like it's happening now. So if we were to picture that we were going to go and get in trouble by someone, if we picture that happening, our body starts to sweat now. Our body doesn't know that we're just imagining it. Same with past experiences. If we're reliving a past experience, we feel like it's happening in the now, even though it happened 10 years ago. And that's where it's really important to resolve not only the past but the future stuff as well. Okay, and then the next part that we go through is physical. So I find there's been quite a pattern that I've seen of people that have been in abusive relationships or relationships where they didn't feel safe to express how they felt. They were walking on eggshells, and they were really they had so much suppressed emotions that it's manifested into physical issues and diseases: pain, cancer, hypothyroidism, high blood pressure, like all of these different issues because of all these suppressed emotions. So we always take those into account, and again, I'll write down, like, you know, what is it that it is out of 10, the pain or the issue or whatever. And then either you can work on those directly in root cause therapy. You can ask for the root cause of whatever the issue is, and it will take you to the trauma and the memories and the suppressed emotions that are manifesting themselves into the physical body. That's like, you need to heal me, you know, you need to look after me. And so that's like the body's last kind of way that it's like, you need to, like, this that happened to you is still causing an issue. It needs to be resolved. It's like the last scream that it has. And so paradoxically, you could just literally work through healing traumas and the emotions, and I see that these always improve. The physical issues just naturally start to go away, which is incredible. And the mind and body, that link is so, so strong, more than we know, more than we realize. Okay, so the next part is we check the limiting beliefs. These are the core beliefs that were created growing up, and they can be passed down generationally as well, and they're called limiting beliefs, limiting decisions, whatever you want to call them. These are the fabric in which we experience our reality. These are our filters, and these are the internal rules of how we make decisions, how we think, how we judge others, how we behave. And so they're massive, and I always say to people, these beliefs aren't true, like this isn't your true being, they're just layers that have happened, they're decisions that were made when you had a very strong emotion. And so I'm just going to relay to you guys just a couple that could relate to relationships. So I am alone. Someone could have the belief that they're alone, so that even when they're around people, they feel alone. If they're in a relationship, they might sabotage it because that conflicts with the belief that they're alone. And so they might sabotage the relationship to make sure they're alone, even though they're very scared of that and their nervous system hates it. It's just a belief system that needs to shift. Another one's, I'm not good enough. So obviously that's going to be like insecurities that we have. I need validation, again, insecurities. I don't trust men, I don't trust women, or I don't trust people. I fear failure, again, it can be self-fulfilling prophecies. I fear conflict. Now this is massive for relationships because, you know, growing up, if we witness explosive conflict and then we had a nervous system response, we're scared, we're going to obviously try and avoid that, but we're going to avoid having those discussions that we need to have with our partner. Avoiding conflict in all aspects is really avoiding life and avoiding meeting people and expressing ourselves and growing in relationships. And, you know, so it's massive. Annette, belief, I'm not worthy and I'm not lovable. Amazing. Yeah. And so we can do custom beliefs. So we can listen to what someone's saying, especially in a couples session, and they might pick up, well, I don't feel loved by you. I don't feel like I'm worthy, or whatever. We can write them down as custom beliefs and work through them. And then we have what's here is a extra limiting belief sheet, we call it. And we literally have a whole section on relationships. So you want to specialize in this area, we do have this available. And so these are relationships lead to pain. So if their relationships have always led to pain, they have a limiting belief around it, they're just going to keep having relationships that lead to pain, right? being in a relationship holds me back, I fear deep connection, I'm better off alone, relationships are a burden, love is meant to be painful. If they experience love to be painful growing up, so it was very traumatic, painful, but their little bodies are like, but this is what love is, guess what, they're going to unconsciously seek when they're older, and maybe even make the relationship painful because a part of them is like, this is what love is. Of course it's not conscious, they're not doing it on purpose, it's just a deep core program that's running, right? And so when people find out that they have this and can shift it, it's amazing. I always get abandoned, I fear commitment, and it's not safe for me to be loved. And so they're incredible ones that we can work on directly, find out where it is, and be able to shift it, right? We check these, we don't just ask the client whether they have them, we use applied kinesiology. We get the clients to do it themselves, so you can work them online or in person, you don't have to touch them or anything, so it's fine for insurance and things like that. And then we actually get to the healing part when we go in and we're going to go in and actually shift them and heal them and release them, whatever is aligned with the relationship that's not serving them, or even relationship trauma itself, relational trauma. That's something that I teach in depth in the training, obviously, as to how to do that. And so with the training, we teach it's a very practical training. I don't have an extensive amount of theory in there, although there are additional classes like this one that I do teach, and we have an amazing supportive community, and I do monthly support calls, and you can answer questions under each lesson, and there's business training, and you can really go down rabbit holes and put so much training in there, but the core one is very straight to the point, very practical. You can become certified in 2 to 3 months. So I've just put the link there because it is on sale at the moment, and that will end this Saturday at midnight, 11:45 p.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time, Melbourne, Australia time, if you want to jump on and get that discount. So in the healing part, we're slightly relaxing the client to be able to access the memory database of their mind. Okay, so it's not like hypnosis where we're putting them really deep. It's a very slight chance they're still fully conscious and awake. They're still in control. We can still converse with them, but it is slightly deeper where they can access memories. So it's just a level where we access memories in terms of, if I was to ask you something amazing that you've done in the last month, you might think of something. It's just like that, but it's just slightly deeper, so we can access things that aren't conscious anymore. Yes, Justine, AESD time, yeah. So it ends on Saturday, Australia time, which is let me just check the date. Oh, today's Saturday, yeah, I got why you're asking that, the 23rd. So in a week. Okay, so, so the discount's 50% off, yeah. So yeah, we're accessing that database, we're just relaxing them slightly. It's something that we all do, we all get flashbacks, we all, most of us, if we don't have brain damage and things like that, we can access memories, we know when the past is or when the future is, somewhat in our mind. So we're just accessing that which is already there. And the awesome thing about this is we're just a guide for the clients to heal themselves. And so it takes away a lot of fear and responsibility as a therapist in terms of feeling like you're scared to do the wrong thing, feeling like you're a bit scared to help someone heal their trauma. It's a very constructive way to guide the client, very empowering for the client. You're just a guide for them. So there's probably, the discount is closing next Saturday, Melbourne time, midnight. Okay, so this is why I can't read the comments because I get distracted. Okay, I have to cover it up for a second. So yeah, like I said, some memories we're already aware of that we go to and they flash up, or some memories are literally tucked deep into the subconscious. And the awesome thing is that we always ask permission. Can we heal this? Can we do this? Can we go there? Can we release that? And that means we can't do anything wrong in terms of if it's something that their mind and body is I don't want you to touch that trauma today, or no, I don't want we shouldn't go there, then it won't. It'll literally say no. So we're always asking permission. Some of you are already in the root cause therapy training or have received a session. Can you just drop like what the experience has been like for you? That would be awesome, because we get so much good feedback. And even I had I conducted a session with someone yesterday, and I'm like, afterwards, oh my god, it's so amazing. So I'd love for you guys to share if you feel to. You don't have to share the details of your experience, but just how you found that actual process will be great. So some people go back to 1 year old, like those unconscious ones. Some people go back to in the womb, and they're hearing their parents fighting, right? And they're like getting their first imprinting of this is how a relationship goes, right? Some people go back to the memories of their grandparents because they're passed down in DNA, and that's scientifically proven. And so they're like, oh my gosh, I'm in my, grandma's body and my partner's died, and right. So there could be traumas that go back even further. Sometimes it's from high school, sometimes it's from our first relationships. So again, we can't assume, we can't as a therapist say to a client, I think you're like this because of this happened. We are actually asking the intelligence of their body and asking what the actual root cause is, and clearing it properly. Because when you just do things surface level and say, I think you're like this because your mum was like this with you, I think you're like this in your relationship because this happened, you're only just cutting the leaves of the weed off. You're not actually going down to the actual root. And so the experience of the client is they might feel a little bit better, or they might be able to manage it a bit better, but that deep underlying pattern that they have will usually keep reoccurring. And then they have to have more tools to try and manage it. And so what we do is we really pull it out from much, much deeper, where it completely resolves those patterns and issues and those limiting beliefs that could be negatively affecting their relationships or who they're choosing to get into relationships with, or heal the PTSD from relationships that they've been in if they're really trying to get past it and they do want to open their heart again to a more loving relationship. I know for me, I witnessed toxic relationships. So when I had people that wanted to date me that were really loving and kind and open and caring and respectful, my body was like, this isn't normal. I was like, ew, right? It's because of the imprinting of that's not what it's meant to be. It's meant to feel chaotic. It's meant to feel hurtful. It's meant to feel like this. There's meant to be fights. But you being loving over there, my body didn't adjust to that. And so it's about neuroplasticity and shifting that so our bodies can start to feel safe in a safe relationship. Our bodies can start to feel safe expressing our emotions. It's something that you can really change people's lives and their relationships. Anyway, speaking their truth, resolving conflicts, it's a blueprint for love. You can bring them back to a healthy blueprint. And one healer that I actually lived with years ago, she said this to me and it always stuck with me, and it's such a good encapsulation. And it doesn't cover everything, but it's never too late to have a good childhood. And that always stuck with me because I was like, yes, with this therapy, it's so true. Because we can literally go back and give our inner children, what they needed, what they didn't get. So that can begin to bring a healthy relationship within ourselves and those fragments of ourselves. And then that does create a ripple effect in our relationships. I love that. I love that so much. And essentially what we're doing in a healing is to heal it, we're going back and we're doing the completion of the emotion that got stuck. And we're completing it, and we're allowing them to express what wasn't expressed, whether it's the emotions, the thoughts, what they wanted to say, or what they needed to feel safe, along with any information that we can take back that we know now. And the therapist can help with this, the root cause therapist, because a person is still fully conscious and awake. If the therapist says something that doesn't resonate, they can say, nah, that doesn't resonate. And that's what makes it really safe as well. But some things are like, wow, yes, that resonates. Okay, so they've got that prefrontal cortex, that critical mind is still there, and that's what makes it really safe. And it just shifts the way people interact with themselves, with the world. right? So it is really transformative. So each time you do a healing on someone in this way, you're releasing them from the weight of decades, sometimes, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years of negative self-talk, of pain, of unhelpful patterns. One of the most powerful things about RCT is that we don't have to take someone back to every single traumatic event in their life. All we have to do, because we're asking for the root cause, imagine it's like a string of beads. We're just asking for the first one, resolving that one, and then we give instruction to the unconscious mind and body to resolve any linked one on the way back. So either, if there's CPTSD, right, so it's happened over and over again, we don't need to take them to every single time and help them work through it. Just the first one, and then the other ones resolve on the way back. Yes, they have a bit of a healing hangover for 2 to 3 days, but if it resolves something from like a decade, then it's definitely well worth it. And so there's minimal, I don't want to say re-traumatization, but there's minimal reliving of them having to relive it as well. And the second benefit is sometimes people do unhelpful behaviors and they don't know why. So when you take them to the root cause and then they see what flashes up on the way back, the connected events of the behaviors that ensued because of that trauma, all of a sudden they can forgive themselves for unhelpful or negative behaviors that they've done towards themselves and others, and go, oh my gosh, I'm like that. Because of that, I can fully forgive myself and love myself and forgive myself for being like that, because it was just a trauma response. And that is huge if you can give that gift to someone. So yeah, like I said, the outcome of the clients are incredible. So it's not only just resolving their relationships, they'll have other benefits, like they'll feel lighter, they'll feel more connected with themselves, their brain fog will lift. I know for me, my memory has improved incredibly, whereas like I was so disassociated like growing up. I couldn't study properly, I couldn't take in information, I was very reckless, and to the point where now I can't forget anything. It kind of gets annoying because I can't just be like, oh, I forgot about that, and my integrity can't do that anymore. And all of these things naturally happen. You feel lighter, you feel clearer, you feel, your heart can open. Like people report colours looking brighter. They're like, I've driven down the same road every day, and all of a sudden, like, all the colours are brighter. It's amazing. So the ideal amount of sessions, so depending on the history, we found from when we had our addiction and mental health clinic in Melbourne, is around 8 sessions. So sometimes 6, sometimes 8, sometimes 12. For a couple, and thank you again, Chanel, if you're watching, for helping me with this. So you want to do that initial, you won't do a full session together, just initial consult with them together. Make sure they're doing those quizzes, those assessments, getting them on the same page, getting that mutual intention for what they want to achieve out of working individually and then sometimes coming together. And then you want to work with them. So one week you want to work with one person, the next week you want to work with the other person, right? So they're going to have a session every 2 weeks. You want to do it like that because this brings up a lot of stuff, and it can be deep childhood stuff. You don't want 2 people that are extra sensitive and healing and want to be in a little healing cocoon or extra emotional together. So if you space it out like that, it's a really good way to make sure that that doesn't cause even more conflict in the relationship. And so just say you do 8 sessions, it'll be over 16 weeks, because they're going to do one each, 1 week, 1 week. And then you want to have a couple of times so that if it's just meeting up on Zoom or coming in and just touching base in the middle of that, and then at the end again. Okay. So yeah, if you are interested in joining the training, you want to find out more, for those of you that are already root cause therapists, I hope you enjoyed this relationship stuff that I'm touching on. I probably will go deeper and do a masterclass later on for you guys, as I like to do one, every month or so. So if you're a student in the program, what's the cost of a session? So if you're in the root cause therapy training, then we usually get you to find a practice buddy, and so then sessions are free. So you're just doing swap sessions. Some people do swap sessions and they're already qualified. Some, if you want to support someone that's qualified, you can go to the Practitioner directory and pay for sessions. But it's good to have a couple of practice buddies, so you can do those swapping of sessions. You can give and receive, because a part of the training you need to receive them too, to experience it from your end. And then you can do either way, but they're basically free if you do it that way. And so you can work on yourself and get the practice hours for certification for others. So here is the link again if you want to enroll and find out more and get that 50% off at the moment. And I just wrote 50, you know what I mean, 50% off. And then so that's it. So if you do purchase the root cause therapy training, you will get offered to get 50% off level 2 as well at checkout. In that one, I have a protocol on how to heal children, how to heal people's pain, how to do distance healings, how to do different things like life between life. There's all extra tools, and there's a level 2 version of the testing sheet that I showed you guys. Some people just do level 1 first and see if they'll do level 2 later, but some people like to grab level 2. It's all self-paced in terms of you can go through the course, take as long or as little as you like, and then you've got to give 6 sessions and receive 3 sessions minimum, and then you send me your testing sheet so I can review it, and then you can get certified. It is accredited internationally in most countries. I'll see if I can find what countries there. I can't add a picture here. Anyway, just if you want to know what countries, it's in most countries anyway, of what countries that it's accredited in, so you can practice and get insurance. I hope you enjoyed this. I will just go through now and answer any questions that I missed. So I'll go back up. The internet cut out. Sorry. Could this really help clients with extreme grief? Susan, yes. So definitely 100%. What happens is sometimes when someone dies, they have to be strong and they can't grieve. They don't have that time and space to grieve. They have to be strong for everyone, or they have to organize the funeral, or maybe a child committed suicide or whatever, and there's this grief that stayed with them sometimes for decades. I find that it can often cause people lung issues, or they like smoking sometimes, or overeating. People have different coping mechanisms, but definitely I've seen people release grief that they've held on for decades, 100%. And drop any questions that you have below, and I'll scroll back down. I just want to make sure I didn't. It's not letting me go off any further. Sorry. If I missed it, just drop it back down below. And if you're watching the replay, feel free to drop a question, because I can come back and answer it as well if you are watching the replay, because not everyone can make it. Oh, beautiful. Lovely. Thanks, guys. Oh, Cassandra, the best money you've spent on yourself in a while. Awesome. Yay. Well, I can't wait to see some of you that are already in the training, or I can't wait to see some new faces in there that are going to jump in. And have a beautiful rest of the weekend. Thank you so much. Take care. Bye.